The breaking point. The crystalline spires of New Geneva stretched toward the violet sky of Neutral Zone 7, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Within the central diplomatic chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Confederation Council, her simple black suit a stark contrast to the ornate biosynthetic robes of the assembled alien representatives. Distinguished members of the Council, she began, her voice carrying naturally through the chamber without technological assistance, a detail that would only later be recognized as significant. For 3 centuries, humanity has participated in these proceedings with patience and humility. High Counselor Zexivix, his crystalline form shimmering with apparent agitation, interrupted. "And we have guided your species with wisdom and restraint. Ambassador Chen, your latest demands for unrestricted access to Class 9 technology are as always denied." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "I'm afraid you misunderstand, High Counselor. I'm not here to make demands." She pressed a small object in her palm, and throughout the chamber, every piece of human-manufactured technology ceased functioning simultaneously. The environmental regulators, the translation matrices, even the artificial gravity generators, all gifts from Earth, went dark. Panic rippled through the assembly as delegates reached for their personal devices, only to find them similarly disabled. Sarah's voice cut through the growing chaos with practiced ease. "For 300 years, we've played the role you expected of us. The eager students, the grateful recipients of your technological scraps, the humble newcomers to galactic society." Trade Minister Klorath, his tentacles writhing in agitation, surged forward. "This is outrageous. Security. Security systems are currently inoperative," Sarah noted calmly. "Another human contribution to this facility, as it happens. But please, don't be alarmed. We're simply ensuring your undivided attention." From her position at the podium, Sarah activated a holographic display, notably still functioning, showing a real-time map of known space. Thousands of points of light began to fade. Communication relays, trading posts, and technological systems of human origin, all going dark simultaneously across 20,000 light-years of space. "What you're witnessing," Sarah continued, "is the systematic shutdown of every piece of human technology freely shared with the Confederation over the past 3 centuries. We estimate it will take approximately 30 standard days for replacement systems to be manufactured and installed. During this time, roughly 40% of the Confederation's infrastructure will be operating at reduced capacity." The chamber erupted in shouts and threats, but Sarah's voice remained steady. "This demonstration serves 2 purposes. First, it illustrates humanity's true technological capabilities. Those primitive systems we shared, carefully designed to appear less advanced than they were, while being absolutely essential to your operations. Second, it shows you exactly what will happen if you continue to treat humanity as a second-class species." High Counselor Zexivix's crystalline form had taken on a deeper, darker hue, a sign of extreme distress in his species. "You speak of deception and threaten the stability of the Confederation, yet claim to deserve equal status. This only proves your species' barbaric nature." Sarah's smile widened slightly. "No, High Counselor. It proves that we understand something your Confederation forgot long ago. True civilization isn't about technological advancement or age. It's about wisdom. And wisdom sometimes means having the patience to wait for the right moment to act." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show thousands of new points of light appearing in previously empty regions of space. "These are human installations, research centers, and military facilities that have operated outside your detection for centuries. We didn't achieve this through superior technology, though we have that too, but through your own absolute certainty that you couldn't be fooled by a young species. The Confederation will not be blackmailed," Trade Minister Klorath declared, though his tentacles had gone notably still. "We can replace your technology. We can." "Can you?" Sarah interrupted softly. "Are you certain? How many of your indigenous developments of the past 3 centuries were actually reverse-engineered from our intentionally flawed designs? How many of your systems are dependent on principles you think you understand, but have never truly grasped? She began walking toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Humanity is withdrawing from the Confederation, effective immediately. We'll maintain our current trade agreements with individual species who wish to treat with us as equals. For the rest, you have 30 days to experience life without human technology. Consider it an opportunity for reflection. At the doorway, she turned back one final time. Oh, and one last thing. Those defensive systems you've been denying us access to for centuries. We developed better ones 80 years ago. We just thought it would be impolite to mention it. The chamber doors sealed behind her with a whisper of perfectly engineered technology, leaving the Confederation Council to contemplate the new galaxy they found themselves in, one where humanity had finally stopped playing by their rules. Silent thunder. Admiral Teriak of the Confederation First Response Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Vigilance, watching as his sensors continued to report impossible readings. Throughout Confederate space, human outposts had simply vanished, not destroyed, not abandoned, but disappeared without a trace. Even their quantum signatures, supposedly impossible to mask, had been erased as if they had never existed. "Status report," he commanded, his dorsal spines rigid with tension. His senior analyst, a Metherian named Vix, responded with evident frustration. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from what we thought were dormant systems. The humans, they weren't just maintaining minimal outposts. They were building." On the main display, a holographic representation of human space flickered to life. What had once appeared as a modest collection of colonies and research stations now revealed itself as an intricate network of military installations and industrial complexes. The supposedly primitive mining operations in their asteroid belts were actually massive shipyards. Their atmospheric research stations on gas giants housed antimatter production facilities. "How did we miss this?" Teriak demanded, his championship scales shifting color with agitation. A quiet voice answered from the doorway. "Because you saw exactly what we wanted you to see." Dr. Elena Santos stood there, the last human scientific advisor still serving on a Confederation vessel. She had been part of the crew for 15 years, quietly documenting their capabilities while providing them with consulting services. "Security," Teriak barked, but Elena merely smiled. "They can't hear you, Admiral. Your internal communications have been running through human-designed quantum relays for the past decade. They're currently experiencing technical difficulties." Teriak's scales shifted to a deeper blue of barely contained rage. "You've sabotaged my ship." "No, Admiral. We simply stopped maintaining the systems you never realized were ours." Elena walked to the main display, her movements casual and unhurried. "Did you never wonder why human technology, while seemingly primitive, was so reliable, so easily integrated into your existing systems, so essential?" On the screen, more human installations were revealing themselves. What had appeared to be simple research outposts were unfolding like massive mechanical flowers, revealing weapon systems and defense platforms that had laid dormant for decades. "Your entire defense network," Elena continued, "runs on protocols we designed. Your quantum communications, your faster-than-light detection systems, your automated response platforms, all reverse-engineered from technology we provided. Technology that contained certain limitations." "Impossible," Vix interrupted. "Our best minds examined every human innovation. We found no hidden protocols, no backdoors." Elena's smile widened slightly. "Of course you didn't. We didn't hide our control in the technology itself. We hid it in the underlying mathematical principles we taught you to use. Principles that were carefully crafted to have specific blind spots we've known about for centuries." Throughout the ship, systems began to shut down one by one. Not violently, not destructively, but with the quiet finality of machines simply choosing to stop working. "Don't worry," Elena assured them, walking toward the emergency transport bay. "Life support will continue functioning. We're not monsters after all. But I suggest you prepare your report for the Council carefully. They'll want to know that humanity hasn't just been hiding its strength. We've been systematically documenting every weakness, every vulnerability, and every flaw in Confederation defenses for 300 years. She paused at the doorway. "Oh, and Admiral, those energy readings you're detecting, those aren't our military installations powering up. Those are just the automated maintenance systems. Our actual military has been operating in completely different dimensional phases. We never kept our fleet in the same universe as yours. It seemed imprudent." As Elena stepped into the emergency transport bay, the ship's sensors detected a massive energy surge. When it cleared, she was gone, along with every piece of human technology on board. The eternal vigilance, pride of the Confederation fleet, drifted in space, reduced to using backup systems that suddenly seemed primitive and unreliable. In the silence that followed, Admiral Teriak realized that humanity hadn't just been playing a long game. They had been playing an entirely different game altogether, one whose rules the Confederation was only now beginning to understand. And as reports flooded in from across Confederate space of similar shutdowns and revelations, a terrifying question began to form in his mind. What else had humanity been hiding? The awakening. The emergency session of the Confederation Council stretched into its fourth day. The Grand Chamber, usually a marvel of automated environmental control and holographic displays, now operated on backup systems that filled the air with an uncomfortable heat and cast harsh shadows across worried faces. High Counselor Zixifix's crystalline form had developed stress fractures, a visible sign of the strain affecting the entire council. Before him, the latest reports painted an increasingly dire picture. 70% of all major trade routes had been disrupted by the loss of human navigational systems. 38 research facilities had lost decades of data stored in quantum matrices that had simply evaporated. And most concerning, nearly every major military installation was operating at reduced capacity. The humans didn't just plan this. First Speaker Nixis observed, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with anxiety. They orchestrated our dependence on their technology. Every innovation they shared was designed to become essential. Trade Minister Clorath, his tentacles now a sickly gray, activated a primitive display screen. It's worse than that. Our analysis shows that 40% of our supposedly indigenous technological developments over the past 2 centuries were actually built on deliberately flawed human principles. We didn't advance beyond them. We followed a path they laid out for us. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and denials, but a new voice cut through the chaos. Director Senna of the Science Council, her artificial body housing one of the oldest minds in the Confederation, stepped forward. "There's something else," she said, her synthetic voice carrying an unusual note of respect. "We've been analyzing their pattern of technological sharing. It wasn't random. It wasn't even purely strategic. It was educational." She gestured, and a timeline appeared on the display. Every piece of technology they shared built upon the previous one. They weren't just creating dependence, they were teaching us. But teaching us wrong, deliberately introducing subtle flaws in our understanding of fundamental principles. "But why?" demanded a junior delegate. "Why spend centuries pretending to be less advanced? Why not simply demonstrate their power from the beginning?" A quiet laugh came from the chamber entrance. Dr. Marcus Chen, the last human professor at the Confederation Science Academy, stood there. Unlike the other humans who had withdrawn, he had requested special permission to address the council one final time. "Because," he said, walking to the center of the chamber, "you wouldn't have learned the lesson. If we had shown our true capabilities from the start, you would have either tried to destroy us or tried to steal our technology. Instead, we showed you exactly what happens when you underestimate a species based on its age." He placed a small device on the podium, noticeably not of human manufacture. This is a complete database of every flaw we introduced into your understanding of quantum mechanics, temporal physics, and dimensional engineering. Consider it a graduation present. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't dealing with a species that had merely hidden its strength. They were dealing with a species that had spent centuries meticulously crafting a lesson in humility. But the truly interesting part, Marcus continued, isn't what we taught you wrong. It's what we taught you right. Hidden among all those flawed principles are the foundations of technologies we haven't even developed yet. We were preparing you for innovations we're still working on, because despite everything, we actually do believe in the potential of this confederation. He smiled, looking around the chamber. You see, humanity's greatest advantage isn't our technology or our deception. It's our perspective. We know what it's like to be underestimated, to be dismissed, to be treated as children. And we know that true strength doesn't come from superior technology or military might. It comes from understanding your own limitations. Director Senna's artificial eyes widened. The database, it's not just corrections, is it? It's an invitation. Precisely. Marcus nodded. Now that you understand your own limitations, now that you've experienced what it's like to be considered inferior, perhaps you're ready to join us as true equals. Not because of fear, not because of technology, but because you finally understand that age and advancement are poor measures of a civilization's worth. As Marcus turned to leave, High Counselor Desexivix found his voice. And if we refuse this invitation, then nothing changes. Marcus shrugged. Humanity will continue to develop, to innovate, to explore. We'll maintain diplomatic relations with those species who treat us as equals, and we'll continue to observe those who don't. But ask yourself this. Do you really want to spend the next 1,000 years wondering what else we're not showing you? Countermove. Deep within the Confederation Strategic Command Center, Fleet Admiral Vix Thor watched as the latest intelligence reports streamed in. The massive holographic display, now running on hastily reconstructed non-human systems, showed a galaxy in chaos. Trade routes were being redrawn, alliances were shifting, and in the darkness between the stars, something unprecedented was happening. Show me the Arcturus sector, he commanded. The display shifted, revealing a region of space that had, until recently, been considered empty frontier territory. Now it blazed with activity. Confirmed human installations, his intelligence chief, Klar, reported. They're not even trying to hide them anymore. What we're seeing appears to be, well, sir, it appears to be a Dyson sphere under construction. Impossible, Vix Thor breathed. Even with their revealed technology level, a project of that scale would take. They started building it 80 years ago. A new voice interrupted. Ambassador Sarah Chen had returned, this time as humanity's official representative to the Strategic Command. Her presence here, in the heart of Confederation military planning, was itself a sign of how much had changed. While your sensors were busy monitoring our primitive outposts, she continued, we were conducting our real work in dimensional phases your systems couldn't detect. The Arcturus project is just one of 17 similar installations. Vix Thor's scales rippled with barely contained emotion. Why reveal this now? Why show us the true extent of your capabilities? Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her eyes held a hint of sympathy. Because the galaxy is about to change, Admiral. And despite our differences, we'd prefer you be prepared for what's coming. The main display shifted again, this time showing a massive gravitational anomaly at the edge of known space. 3 months ago, our long-range sensors detected this, Sarah explained. An advanced civilization, far more ancient than the Confederation, is emerging from 100,000 years of self-imposed isolation. Their technology makes ours look primitive by comparison. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You knew they were coming, Klar accused. That's why you spent centuries building in secret. No, Sarah corrected. We spent centuries building in secret because that's what humanity does. We prepare for possibilities. When we detected the ancients awakening, We simply accelerated our timetable." She gestured, and the display changed again, showing hundreds of human military installations emerging from their dimensional hiding places. "What you're seeing is approximately 30% of our actual military capacity. The rest remains in reserve. This is why you chose now to reveal yourselves," Vix Thor realized. "You're not just showing us your strength, you're offering an alliance." Sarah nodded. "The ancients will not be interested in diplomatic niceties or careful negotiations. From what we've decoded of their transmissions, they view younger civilizations as resources to be harvested. The Confederation, for all its flaws, at least recognizes the potential of emerging species." She placed a data crystal on the command console. "This contains the full specifications for our phase shift technology, gravimetric weapons systems, and dimensional engineering principles. No hidden flaws, no deliberate mistakes. Consider it humanity's first contribution to a genuine military partnership." "And what do you want in return?" Klar asked suspiciously. "What we've always wanted: equality. Real cooperation. A seat at the table earned through merit rather than age." Sarah's expression hardened slightly. "And an acknowledgement that perhaps humanity's aggressive tendencies and paranoid preparation aren't character flaws, but traits that might be valuable in the coming storm." Vix Thor studied the data crystal for a long moment. "The Council will need to vote on this." "Of course," Sarah agreed. "But first, they'll need to understand exactly what they're voting on." She activated a personal device, and suddenly, the entire command center shifted, literally moved through dimensional space, to emerge high above Earth. The assembled military leaders gasped as they saw what human space really looked like. Massive fleet installations orbited every planet. Artificial worlds hung in carefully calculated positions, and everywhere, signs of industry and military preparation on a scale that dwarfed the Confederation's greatest achievements. "This is humanity's true face," Sarah said quietly. "Not the humble students you thought we were, but not conquerors either. We are builders, planners, preparers for every contingency. We spent centuries hiding our strength, not because we feared you, but because we wanted to understand you. Now we're offering to stand beside you, as equals, against a threat that will require everything both our civilizations can bring to bear." She turned to face the assembled leaders. "The question isn't whether humanity deserves a seat at the table anymore. The question is whether the Confederation is ready to accept that the galaxy is a far more dangerous place than they imagined, and that perhaps, just perhaps, humanity's paranoid preparation might be exactly what's needed to survive what's coming." New dawn. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Confederation had been rebuilt. Gone was the crystalline dome that had symbolized the old order, replaced by a structure that merged the architectural styles of 100 species. At its heart, a new council chamber had been constructed, not in rising tiers that emphasized hierarchy, but in concentric circles that spoke of equality. High Counselor Zexivix, his crystalline form now bearing the marks of recent events like badges of honor, stood at the central podium. Before him, representatives from every Confederation species gathered for what historians would later call the Great Reformation. "The vote stands at unanimous," he announced, his voice carrying a weight of humility that would have been unthinkable months ago. "The Confederation Charter will be rewritten. All species, regardless of age or origin, will be evaluated on their current capabilities, contributions, and commitment to our shared future." In the human section, Ambassador Sarah Chen sat beside Fleet Admiral Jessica Torres, both wearing the new uniform of the Joint Defense Command. The symbolism was lost on none present. Humanity would no longer separate its diplomatic and military presence. Transparency, they had argued, was the foundation of true trust. Furthermore, Zexivix continued, in recognition of their unique perspective and proven foresight, humanity has been asked to lead the preparation for the ancient threat. Their centuries of planning and development will serve as the framework for our unified defense strategy. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Fear had given way to respect, and respect had blossomed into genuine appreciation. The humans' paranoid preparation no longer seemed excessive. It seemed prescient. Admiral Torres stood, activating a holographic display that filled the chamber center. Our latest deep space sensors confirm the Ancients have begun their expansion. Their first wave will reach Confederation space in approximately 5 years. Thanks to the combined efforts of human and Confederation scientists, we've already begun implementing our defense strategy. The display showed massive construction projects spanning multiple star systems. Human phase shift technology merged with Confederation energy matrices. Metherian biological computers enhanced with human quantum principles. Crystalline warships incorporating technologies from a dozen species. But our greatest weapon isn't our technology, Sarah added, joining Torres at the podium. It's our diversity. The Ancients expect to find divided, hierarchical civilizations they can easily conquer. Instead, they'll face a unified force that values strength in all its forms. She gestured, and the display shifted to show the new Joint Defense Fleet. Ships of every design and origin flew together in perfect formation, their crews mixed, their capabilities complementary. This is what humanity was preparing for, even if we didn't know it. Not just the threat of the Ancients, but the moment when the galaxy would need to stand together as equals. From his position among the Confederation's military leadership, Admiral Vix Thor watched with a mixture of pride and awe. His scales, once midnight blue with doubt, now shimmered with confidence. The defensive lines are set, he reported. Every system the Ancients might target has been fortified with both human and Confederation technology. But more importantly, every system is defended by mixed crews, drawing on the strengths of all our species. High Counselor Zexivix raised his crystalline hands for silence. Let the record show that on this day, the Galactic Confederation died, and the United Systems Alliance was born. No more hierarchies based on age. No more artificial distinctions between species. We face the future as equals, or we don't face it at all. In the depths of space, the massive fleet installations continued their preparations. Dyson spheres neared completion, their power ready to fuel the greatest defensive network the galaxy had ever seen. Research stations hummed with activity as scientists of all species worked together, their combined knowledge far exceeding what any one civilization could have achieved alone. And on Earth, in a quiet garden outside the new Alliance headquarters, Dr. Marcus Chen sat with Director Senna, sharing a moment of peace before the coming storm. Did humanity really plan all this? She asked, her artificial form gleaming in the sunset. The revelation of your true strength, the timing with the Ancients' awakening, the reformation of the Confederation. Marcus smiled, watching as ships from a dozen worlds streaked across the darkening sky. We planned for everything, Director. That's what humanity does. But this outcome, this unity, this was beyond our wildest hopes. We prepared for war, but we achieved something far more valuable. What's that? Senna asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. A future worth fighting for, Marcus replied, as the first stars began to appear. And this time, we'll face it together. In the vast darkness between the stars, the Ancients continued their inexorable approach, unaware that the divided, primitive civilizations they expected to find had transformed into something unprecedented. A galaxy united not by force or fear, but by the very diversity they had once seen as a weakness. Humanity's greatest deception had become the galaxy's greatest strength, and the dawn of a new age was about to begin.